Today we've got a great malicious compliance story involving a boss that accused the OP of bullying. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, boss wanted everything done by the book, so I did. Entire office shut down for a day. Work as a lab technician at a hospital in Milwaukee, been there about 9 months. My supervisor Derek is one of those guys who panics about everything. 2 weeks ago, state inspectors came through and he completely spiraled. Started implementing all these new protocols that are technically in our safety manual, but nobody actually follows because they're outdated from like 1997. Friday morning, he sends this department-wide email in all caps about how we're doing everything by the book from now on. 0 shortcuts. He doesn't care if it takes longer. Anyone caught skipping steps gets written up. Thing is, our equipment sterilization protocol in the official manual requires 8 hours of UV exposure between uses. We have 6 pieces of equipment. We run maybe 40 tests a day across all of them. You see the problem. Monday morning, I start the UV cycle on the first machine I use. Derek walks by later and asks why I'm not running samples. I show him the manual, show him his email, explain the math. If we actually follow protocol, we can run maybe 3 tests total per day as a department. His face went through like 5 different emotions, tries to say, that's not what I meant, and I'm like, but you said everything by the book, 0 shortcuts, remember? He had to call the department head. They had to get someone from compliance on the phone. Turns out that protocol was supposed to be updated in 2015 and just wasn't. Nobody noticed because nobody followed it. We shut down non-emergency testing for the entire day while they pushed through an emergency protocol update. Derek won't make eye contact with me now. My coworker Amanda bought me coffee this morning though, so that was cool. I'm gonna be honest, I find it crazy that OP has these protocols, and even crazier that they're not updated or that they just completely disregard them altogether. I mean, when OP starts talking about UV cycles on the machines they use and equipment sterilization protocols and how they're running test samples and whatever that means, like it sounds very expensive, it sounds sensitive. Why wouldn't they have a modern protocol? But also, the safety procedures aren't that outdated, right? 1997, that's not that long ago, right? Agency 1983 commented, if you have a written safety protocol that nobody is following, that's a major lawsuit risk. But if you're not updating your manuals in almost 2 decades with updated safety procedures, that's a whole other thing. Tasty Traffic 680 replied, right? To me it sounds more like Derek was right and just didn't know how freaked things really were. Apparently malicious compliance is actually doing your job the right way? In a hospital? Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of malicious compliance, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, boss said I must use my vacation before month end, but also, no one can take time off, so I read the policy. Company sends a shiny HR email, subject line all caps, use it or lose it. We had to burn our remaining PTO by the 30th or it evaporates into the sun. Same day, my manager announces in stand-up that due to quarter end, no one can take time off until the 1st. I asked how to reconcile that. He shrugs and says, talk to HR. HR says, talk to your manager. Cute loop. So I open the handbook because I am a petty librarian when annoyed. Page 14 has this little sentence I never noticed. PTO requests not explicitly denied in writing within 48 business hours are considered approved. There is also a note that partial day PTO is allowed in 1-hour blocks. Thank you, legal team. I submitted 10 separate requests, 2 hours every morning next week, 2 hours every afternoon the week after, a random Friday 3 to 5 to watch a plumber, and 1 full day to visit my mom. I sent the requests in our HR portal, which auto-emails the manager and CCs a shared mailbox nobody watches. Then I went back to my tasks and set reminders. 48 business hours pass, no denial. The portal changes each request to approved. Green check mark, confetti gif. Monday comes and at 9:58, I put a cheerful note in the team chat. Heading out, see you at noon. Manager pings me to hop on a client call. I reply with a screenshot of the policy and the portal approval. Silence. Then 3 dots typing, then nothing. By Wednesday, our calendar looked like cheese. Half the team remembered they also had PTO sitting around and started filing it in little blocks. Meetings kept colliding with green bars. Finance realized that if we did not use the days now, they would be paid out at separation later, which they hate. HR wrote a new post saying that we should coordinate, but that approvals already granted stand. My manager called a huddle to ask why productivity dipped. I said we're following HR's instruction to use PTO. He said he meant in November. I sent him the original email, timestamped this month. He sighed and said he never thought anyone would actually read the handbook. I used every hour, took my mom to lunch, and my plumber fixed the cursed sink at 3:40 while I drank tea. Next week, a new policy appeared. PTO must be requested in full day increments during quarter end, and managers must respond in 24 hours. Thanks for clarifying, truly. You know it's bad when the company's like, wait, you're actually trying to follow our established handbook policies? You're not supposed to do that. Nobody actually reads those things. I mean, if your workplace policies haven't been updated or kept in check, then I can't imagine what else isn't. Coder Joe 1 commented, I used to encourage my employees to use all of their vacation time as well as their sick time. I wanted my team to avoid burning out as it took nearly a year to get a new hire fully trained. Muscreerier commented, this malicious compliance is approved. Our next story is, student made demands regarding a project and found out the hard way. One of the degree modules I teach involves students working on a group programming project. Nothing too elaborate, but the aim of the module is to develop skills they'll need if they go on to work in the IT field. After all, if you're doing a computer science degree, you must be thinking of going down that route. This one student is an absolute entitled nightmare. He uses Gen AI for a lot of his work, and it really does show. He always pushed back on the written remarks on his work, but every time I sit him down and ask him how to explain the code he produces, he struggles and often has no idea how the code he submitted works. In this project, he came up and told me he cannot work with others in the group and must work alone. I explained that there are specific group activities and efforts I would be marking and that I needed to see his input within the group. There was no way I could excuse him from the group activities in the module. However, I could see that he was not going to budge and therefore complied with his demand to work on the project alone. All the students in my class had been assigned to their groups, and I did check in with all of them on a weekly basis. This one guy was steadfastly refusing to work with the rest of his group, and as I had complied with his request, he was working on his own project alone. In my interim feedback at the end of each stage, I repeated that he really should work with the group or he risked a failing mark for the module. I made sure this feedback was sent to him both in hard copy and also via email with read receipts, which I kept. Cue the end of the module and the submission for marking. Sure enough, the one student submitted a project based just on his own work and had not engaged with the group he was asked to work with. There were several issues with his project. First and most important was it didn't meet the brief. The code simply didn't do what we asked for. He lost marks for that aspect of the project. As he hadn't worked with others in the group, he wasn't awarded any of the group marks allocated for the work. Because his code was so far away from the specification, I called him in for a viva voce to explain the code, and he demonstrated a complete lack of understanding of the code he submitted. More marks dropped. His eventual mark for this assignment was a hard fail. He must now resit the entire module. There is, of course, one real downside of this whole thing that affects me. I've got him in my group again for the resit of the module. For somebody that actually cares about these kids and wants to see them learn and develop and flourish in these skills or the field that they seem to have some kind of interest in, or else why would they be there? I feel like it's almost a painful malicious compliance, like you're kind of going along with it and you're watching the car crash coming, but you really wish they just took the time and learned how to operate the brake. OK Strength 5245 commented, I had one like this. We all saw it at his defensive thesis. He obviously didn't know what was writing in. I asked the vice dean how we should proceed. He replied, if you are to fail him good. So there is edit. No way he can use a near miss to edit win a complaint. It is what we did. Nobody in his class was surprised. Our next story is the Teacups' new home. On Sundays, my typical family goes to church in town about 45 minutes away from where we live. I'm an atheist myself, but with 4 children, I opt to be around to help my wife out so she isn't overwhelmed. And I'll admit, this church is pretty special, a decent community that has a meal every week, something rare from what I've seen. Families or groups take turns doing the meal for everyone each week. It's nice to sit down and talk to people after the service over an actual meal instead of just leaving or having a coffee and a sugar cookie and then leaving. Once it seems like things are mostly under control, my children are settled or in the playroom or whatever, when I've had enough of the service, I'll typically go for a walk, usually ending in the kitchen and dining area, where the coffee and sugar cookies from the previous service are located. Now, having been to this church for a while, there's a peculiar thing I've noticed both at the after-service meals and a number of the more formal meals. Very often, there are no pitchers of water to be found anywhere. Honestly, it's really weird. At some point, I don't know exactly when, I'd had enough of visiting the kitchen sink to get water in my glass or asking someone for water that I ended up using this walk time to just put out the pitchers myself while the service is going on. I'll fill up about 5 pitchers of water and also put out the glasses, bowls, plates, cutlery, and coffee cups. No, I don't want to be a volunteer, and I'm not committing to anything. I'm not signing anything. Leave me alone. I do this whenever I'm there at this point and just make it part of my routine, and I'm quite happy with it. So a number of weeks ago, I was at home with my wife and we were discussing what was in our kitchen cupboards and wanting to make more room as things were a little tight. Attention gravitated to our teacups. We both readily agreed that we had too many of them and could do away with some. We didn't agree on which ones to do away with. My wife wanted to get rid of certain ones I liked that didn't match or were ugly or whatever, and said that we can probably just donate them somewhere instead of throwing them out. I paused, thought about it, didn't argue. Okay, let's donate them. All the ones you don't like. As it happens, since I'm the guy who's putting out all the meal items, like teacups, I knew that the church had somewhat of a shortage of teacups and coffee cups that usually forced us to use a backup of paper cups to cover the need. Also, most of the cups there were too small. So one week when we were going to church, I quietly packed the box of teacups into our van. When my routine resumed as usual in the kitchen, I took out our teacups and placed them with the church's teacups, but not just that, I made sure ours were at the front of the group of cups, where they were easy to see every week. I've not mentioned to anyone where the cups came from. My wife hasn't either. We're still married. I like that OP thought that this was like a divorce-worthy thing. Like OP's wife would walk into that church kitchen, see all of their donated old coffee and teacups there and go, yeah, I'm divorcing this guy. Like, why wouldn't the wife just be happy about the way OP handled things here? I mean, that's a great way to donate them, is it not? Don't worry, guys, we're still married. Yeah, why wouldn't you be? OK Pangolin 1337 commented, wait, this is wholesome. I love this. It's an excellent example of healthy compromise. Wife gets the teacups she doesn't love out of her kitchen. She feels less cluttered and overwhelmed with teacups that aren't needed. Husband still gets to see the cups he likes because they're in a place they visit regularly. Cups find a good home where they're actually useful and don't end up in a landfill somewhere. Church gets cups they needed, and the amount of paper disposable cups used goes down, also reducing waste. Literally everybody wins. Our next story is the endless cleaning loop. So this happened while I was working at a convention center that was not a good place to work. They sucked. Minglement was absolutely poster boy MBA idiocy 99% of the time, and that other 1% was trying to figure out how to make it 100%. For example, they hired a security guy to keep homeless folks from crashing on our couches, then tried to fire him when the homeless problem just went away. Yeah, this type of genius. The type that thinks everyone not in an office with an MBA is below them. Something they made clear abundantly, even as they constantly failed to figure things out like, you can't stick 12 10-foot tables in a row that's 100 feet long. Yes, the application let you make the room larger, but we lack that space-time bending technology. Anyway, they were the type of people who believe that the menial peons of lesser departments should never be relaxing. Work for the purpose of pointless work. Getting a job done better or faster just means getting penalized. So one day, about 6 months before COVID, they hand down this new rule. Our job was setting up and taking down seats, as well as cleaning, both for events and in general. They let the janitorial staff go and folded those jobs into our department to save cash. Well, they decide that there are 2 new rules we need to follow. 1, always be cleaning. We are to clean on a loop endlessly, even on floors that aren't in use that day, so that the customers can see how busy we are keeping things nice. We did the loop and no one's come in? Do it again, top to bottom. You should never be off your feet, you lazy peons. So lazy. 2, we were no longer allowed to leave cleaning materials, carts, vacuums, etc. anywhere but their assigned location, which was now a back room on a bottom floor. If anyone asks you to do anything, you have to go put all that back, no exceptions. We pointed out that this was stupid, but we're just laughable idiots who couldn't get a business degree. What do we know about work? So we complied. And suddenly, everything was late. Get a call to get some chairs? Well, I was cleaning the unused tables on another floor. I have to pack everything up, put it away on the slow elevator, then I can go do that. Even if a customer asked me. Suddenly, we're getting complaints that everything takes too long. Manglement even protested a few times. What were you doing on that floor? Cleaning, like you told us to. Did they learn? No. In fact, a few months later, they took away the break room. We could still have breaks, it was the law, it just wasn't supposed to be in the building, to prevent laziness. Meanwhile, we were still endlessly looping on cleaning, then taking 5 or so minutes to pack up every time we had to do something, then another 5 minutes to unpack and get back, sometimes several times in a few minutes. Making 3 quick errands for an event take half an hour. They didn't learn, but we complied, much to the complaint of everyone. Then COVID hit, they took the PPP loan, and fired everyone. I know of at least one convention center off the top of my head that completely shut down after COVID, and it really just makes me start praying that it wasn't that one that did this horrible, horrible thing. Because that immediately takes all of those fun events and memories that I have in mind of that place, and immediately tarnish them with the idea that they were treating their workers like that. Numbar43 commented, weren't the PPP loans supposed to require not firing everyone? Our next story was told to work my contract hours, damage ensued. Teacher here in inner city, found myself coming in at 7:12 to 7:15 for a week or two, supposed to be there for 7:10. My daughter's daycare is getting construction done, so had to park across the street and drop her off. Got reprimanded and a mark on my file for not working during contractual hours. You're paid for working 7:10 to 2:22. Fine. Once school is out at 2:02, I usually open up the weight room and let athletes work out, give some advice. I was a college athlete and lifted a lot, and I watch them until about 3:15 when their coaches get there. Kids love it, I love it, coaches love it, never asked for pay, but my contract's done at 2:22. One day, only one day, I posted on our webpage that I wasn't going to be there. What happened? That same day, numerous phones stolen from locker room. So cops came, weight room door broke open, kids running through halls and ran into a teacher sending her to urgent care. Admin calls me in asking why I wasn't watching them. I said, I was told to work my contractual hours. I'm only paid until 2:22. I did this for fun, and it was unofficial. The next day, the whole district gets an email for a job posting. After school weight room coach. Admin asked me to apply. Now it's costing them money. Edit, since some of you seem to be butthurt that this isn't real and how could they post a position so quickly, here's my response to a comment below. It's a long story. We actually used to have a dedicated strength and conditioning coach. He quit last year because, you might guess, he was sick of dealing with my admin. They posted the position, but no one wanted it and I wasn't qualified, need a CSCS, so I unofficially took over because the kids wanted to work out, which I applaud them for. The new position posted was a revised posting with lowered qualifications, so I could take it. Am I wrong for being confused as to why people would leave comments saying, oh, how do they turn around and put a position up that quick? I mean, if they know exactly what OP was doing and want to just make sure that they have somebody there doing what OP did, is it that hard to put a position up real quick? I don't know, I guess maybe because of like school district stuff or something, it might not be that straightforward. Unasked for Advice commented, rarely does anyone appreciate what they get for free. Now, after they got over their power trip, they can pay you for your time. Our next story is, you want me to be on time? Okay, down to the minute. The timekeeping system at my job runs on a 15-minute increment schedule. Basically, if you clock in during the first 7 minutes of the increment, it rounds you backward to the start of that segment. If you're in the last 7 minutes, it rounds you forward to that end of the segment. Example, you clock out at 4:52? Congrats, the system says you left at 4:45. Now, if you clock in and out multiple times a day, like for lunch, that's 4 punches, and potentially up to 28 minutes lost or gained depending on when you land in those increments. Shortly after I started, I began getting flooded with emails about being short a few minutes on my timesheet and was told I had to submit PTO, even though I worked full 8-hour days, sometimes more. It didn't matter that I was physically at work. If the system said I was short, I had to burn time off. So I started paying attention. Really close attention. Here's the twist. My employer doesn't pay overtime in cash, but they do give you 1.5 times off if you earn it. So 1 hour of overtime equals 1.5 hours of PTO. With some strategic clocking in and out, always landing on the helpful side of the 15-minute window, I've gotten good at squeezing out those 28 minutes extra a day. That adds up to 140 minutes, 2 hours, 20 minutes of overtime a week, which, when converted at 1.5 times, becomes 3.5 hours of PTO every week, all for doing exactly what they asked, watching the clock very closely. Thanks for the free time off. I've heard similar stories and I've never understood why they have a system that does this. Is it because it's like easier or prettier to track the numbers? Is it because they still run on something that uses Windows 95 and it can only operate in 5-minute increments or something? Or is it just a straight up scheme where they're trying to take time away from their employees? London is my heart commented, I got spoken to about my whopping 30 to 45 minutes of overtime a week, got in a couple of minutes early and left a couple of minutes late every day so we could open and close on time. So now I clock in and out exactly when I'm supposed to. No overtime, but also no staying late. After months of this, boss is saying I could relax and not be so by the clock, because now we close a couple of minutes early and open a couple of minutes late. Nope, you burn that bridge by griping about it. Never giving extra time to this place again. Our next story is, boss accused me of bullying, so I requested punishment. Years ago, I worked in a semi-public sector job as part of a successful team helping make life easy for local businesses. Our team boss took a good job in the private sector, and a new boss was recruited from a decent organization similar to ours in a different part of the country. She worked compressed hours Monday to Thursday and was off on Fridays. A month or two in, and although the new boss was quite particular about things being done her way and had upset a couple of my colleagues by criticizing their work, I'd had no problems with her. We had a team meeting where the boss said that our performance wasn't good enough. We were arguably the best in the country, and that she wanted to be more involved in what and how we did everything to ensure better quality, and so we should copy her to every client email so she could comment as needed before we sent another reply. Although this seemed inefficient, nobody argued, and I just asked her if I should wait until Monday for her to comment on any client emails received on a Friday. I can't remember exactly what she said, but at the end of the meeting she asked me to stay behind and then told me in a heated tone that my question was bullying behavior, that it was unprofessional to ask the question in front of the team, and said that my actions were the sort of thing that HR would see as grounds for dismissal and that I should be very careful in the future. I told her I understood, and we returned to our desks where I wrote up every single detail of the entire meeting and interaction and sent it to the head of HR with the explanation that as bullying was very serious and may not be reported by the victim, I felt duty-bound to report myself. I also laid it on pretty thick about being appalled by my unprofessional behavior and the fact that my career was likely at risk and I clearly had a desperate need for training and discipline to fix my dangerous ways. I also copied in my union rep. Within a day, me, my union rep, and my boss were with the head of HR who, being a by-the-book professional, could find no indication of bullying or justification for my fears of being an unprofessional bully in need of re-education. I was asked to leave the meeting. My union rep stayed in and I don't know what was said, but within 6 weeks, my boss was gone, and that same week my weak and ineffective but likable big boss called me in to thank me as he had wanted to get rid of her but hadn't known how. Tell me OP lives in a place that doesn't have at-will employment without telling me that OP lives in a place that blah blah blah. You know, hearing a situation like that where they have a terrible employee that they want to fire but they just can't find a reason to almost makes you sympathize with the level of power they get with at-will employment. Almost. Distinct Book commented, reminds me of a story I heard years back. This company hired a new regional manager, and on one day he was giving his tough speech of, I'm here to kick butt and chew bubble gum, but I'm all out of bubble gum. One guy in the background was disinterested and was looking around the room. The new manager saw this and said, why are you not paying attention? And the response he got was, I've heard this speech before, and nothing is going to change. The manager said, you just wait, and in 6 months your tune is gonna change. 6 months later, that manager was gone. Vondi replied, commenting, things are going to change. Like me. I'll be gone. Our next story is, blow a minor incident out of proportions? Don't mind if I do. I work as an engineer for a company that assigns me to various client projects. For one such assignment, I was added to a project that wouldn't start for a few weeks. So in the meantime, I stayed focused on other outgoing work. A few days before the project was due to begin, the external project lead sent me a zip file containing technical documentation, diagrams, requirements, and other materials relevant to the upcoming project. I skimmed through it briefly and then moved on with my day. Nothing unusual. A couple of days later, I got an email from the external company's scheduling manager saying that a document had been sent to me which apparently contained some confidential company information, and asking me to delete the email. That's it. No file name, no explanation, just a vague, please delete it. I shrugged, deleted the zip file, and replied asking if they could resend it without the problematic part. Then I forgot all about it. That is, until I got a call from the most condescending, passive-aggressive person I've ever dealt with, the scheduling manager from the client side. She went on a 30-minute tirade about how the previous project lead never should have sent me that documentation, how serious the situation was, and, most memorably, how she couldn't trust that I had actually deleted it. I quote, I can't just take your word for it. I'm not just going to trust you because you say so. Right. So at that point I figured, I'm done with you. If you're going to act like I've just been handed nuclear launch codes, then I'll treat it like I've just been handed nuclear launch codes. I said, you're absolutely right. I'll contact our security operations team and report a formal security incident. They can coordinate with your SecOps team, and together we can do a full scrub of all relevant mail servers to ensure the document is completely gone. It's really the only way to be certain. Suddenly, her entire tone changed. Oh, no, that won't be necessary. It's fine, I believe you. She practically stumbled over herself trying to shut it down because escalating this to both companies' SecOps teams would have turned it into a bureaucratic nightmare. Incident reports, compliance reviews, and probably someone getting thrown under the bus. I politely reiterated that I really didn't mind escalating it if it would give her peace of mind. She very quickly decided that she had had enough peace already. We ended the call, and life moved on. If you act like I've compromised national security, don't be shocked when I offer to treat it like a national security incident. Why does this sound like two kids talking to each other about how they've hurt each other? Oh really, you're so upset that I was using your computer. Well, why don't I just go get mom to do a full checkup on the thing to make sure I didn't do anything wrong on it? Then the other side's like, no, okay, that's fine, never mind. Don't make mom look through all my devices again. Avid Learner Bot commented, if a scheduling manager thinks deleting a zip file is a national security crisis, maybe the real problem is the person who sent a document without a password-protected zip file in the first place. What's the protocol for handling documents that aren't even classified but somehow trigger a full-blown security panic? Bemteb replied, why can you even send or receive random zips in a mail? That should go through a cloud or file server that has every virus scanner imaginable installed. Bonus points for not wasting storage on the mail server. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.